What's up? Yeah, it is morning there. So, guys, what we're doing is good morning to some, good afternoon to others, but this is the Top Producer Show, and what we're going to do is go over what it takes to become a top producer in your field. This is going to be geared towards direct sales. This is going to be geared towards recruiting. So if you're recruiting in real estate, mortgage, insurance, financial services, network marketing company, direct sales company, that goes by a lot of different names. That's what this is about. That's who this is for. Hey, Cody, how are you? And what we're going to be talking about today is law number 2 of the 21 Laws of Leadership. We're going to be going through each one of these laws Monday through Friday throughout this month. And the purpose behind this is to teach you some of the things you need to know to be able to become a top producer. And here's what I found. When I first learned about this information, out of the 21 laws total, here's what I found out. I didn't know most of them. And the reason I didn't know most of them is I had never read anything on leadership. I was not taught about leadership in school. I was not taught about leadership in my job. I was not taught about leadership at home. At least that's not what they called it. Hi, Carrie. How are you? Hey, Charles. What's happening? I got my phone right today, Charles, by the way. Thank you for that. Yesterday, guys, for those of you who don't know, yesterday I turned my phone on and I set it just like I did today, only I set it with the camera facing the other direction, so it was actually filming a blank screen, and Charles helped me out with that, so I appreciate it. Hi, Chrissy. But today what we're going to do is we're going to go over John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership. For those of you who don't know who John Maxwell is, he's written about 100 books. He spoke really everywhere in the world. He's kind of been a counselor or a mentor to some of the most famous people that you can think of. When it comes to leadership, he's spoken inside of almost every Fortune 500 company. He spoke at West Point. I mean, if you go to West Point and you're speaking on leadership, you must know something to get those guys to listen, because obviously they know a little bit about that. He's the keynote speaker in approximately 30 network marketing companies. And just so you kind of have an idea, I don't want to promote this like, haha, he makes a lot of money, but he sold 27 million copies of his books, which should put him, up there. But the second thing is he earns $125,000 a speech. He's the highest paid speaker in the world outside of celebrities and politicians, and which is pretty solid. $125,000 for 90 minutes is good, plus expenses. Of course, you got to fly him in and put him up and do all that stuff too, and I'm sure he's pretty demanding with his time. But I was actually lucky enough that I became a John C. Maxwell group member. I went and became a speaker, trainer, and coach. And what that does is give me access to his material. It gives me licensing rights to be able to market his stuff. And just to kind of give you an idea, each one of his courses, and I've got a bunch of books behind me here on the shelf. I have a lot of other crap too. So, disorganization is part of the 21 Laws. We'll get to that one. Obviously, I'm still working on it. But he has 8 core training lessons, and then there's these 2, the 21 Laws and the 5 levels of leadership that we also have the ability to go over. And he has 2 other ones that he just added. So we're going to get through this material. You'd spend somewhere between $300 and upwards of $3,000 for an afternoon to learn this material, not from him, but from one of the coaches. So that just gives you kind of perspective on how valuable the information is, and that companies pay for this, not only just in the United States, but I just saw that he was in Dubai running one of his seminars. So, I mean, the guy's all over the world. So let's get into this. This is what it's about. Maxwell's philosophy. This is part number 2, and I'm just going through. This is the master copy of the 21 Laws of Leadership from our back office. And it says, leadership is simply about influencing people, nothing more, nothing less. And that's how he starts out, as leadership is influence. So law number 2 is the law of influence, learning the law of influence. Leadership is not title. It's not a position. It's not power or stature. It's influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, there's 5 myths to influence, and this is where people kind of get leadership wrong. The management myth. The idea that leading is management and management is leadership, or one and the same. Unfortunately, they're not, and he goes into a lot of depth in this inside the book. But here's the idea. Just because you have a title doesn't mean people are following you. How many people have ever had a job where the person had a title and you were supposed to train them? That happens all the time in corporate America, and then you get pissed off because this person obviously doesn't know what's going on, but they're the manager of you. Just because you have a management position, just because you were given the position, and we talk about this in the 5 levels of leadership, position is actually the lowest level of leadership. So when somebody says, yeah, but I'm a manager, I mean, people try to come up and they always try to, like, give me their title, and they're like, I'm a manager of, you know, the Frito-Lay department. And I'm like, that's awesome. You know, you're the night manager at the gas station. And I had a friend that's like, I was the night manager at the gas station. I told all the chips and all the sodas what to do. You know, some people think it's like that it's power. It's not. The entrepreneur myth. I get this one a lot. Oh, you obviously are a leader because you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are skilled at seeing opportunities and going after them. That does not mean they know anything about leading people. In fact, you'll find that most entrepreneurs, a lot of times, hey Gino, what's up? Most entrepreneurs are really crappy leaders a lot of times. Why? Because they're idea people. They like to start things, but they're not necessarily good at building relationships. They're not always. I mean, sometimes they're very good. They're not good at all the other things it takes to become a good leader, and that's what we're talking about today. If you want to know more about becoming a great leader, these are the principles behind leadership. I'm in a job quitting today. Oh, okay. You know, and some people, hey, here, Cody just made a good point. 77% of people, for those of you who don't know this, 77% of people interviewed who left a job simply because the leadership was bad. It was the people, it wasn't the job, it wasn't even the money. You know, a lot of people are like, well, the money sucked too, which is another reason to leave. That's probably the other 23% of the reason to leave. But most people are leaving jobs simply because of the people and the leadership. So this is something you want to get down so that way you can attract more people. And influence is everything, guys. And I'm going to talk about specifically how to influence people in recruiting, in building your teams. I don't care what kind of company you're behind. So the knowledge myth. Knowing what to do and influencing others to do it takes very different things. I have friends that have read every book on leadership, but they can't influence anyone. Why? Just because you know the principle behind leadership doesn't mean you have the people skills behind leadership. I think we're one and the same in the field. Yeah. So that's another very important thing, the knowledge by itself. So this is stuff you have to practice. This is stuff you have to work on. Hi, Jennifer. Number 4, the pioneer myth. Just because you get there first, if no one's following you, you're not a leader. You know, John has this funny quote that says, you know, if you think you're a leader and you take off and nobody's behind you, you're really just taking a walk. And I've taken a lot of walks in my life. Hey, Brad, what's up? So this is about leadership, you know, and about influencing people. And a lot of people, you know, if you look at the cash flow quadrant chart, a lot of people might be great employees. They show up every day and they do what they're supposed to do, and they don't like the leadership they're under. So some people go self-employed. And being self-employed is actually, it's a little bit easier for some because it allows them to come in whenever they want. For others, it's very damaging because they don't have that structure to go in every day, and they don't have that structure that says do this, do this, do this, or you're fired. So what they end up doing is they always, you know, they sink to the lowest level of commitment. Whatever their commitment is, they sink to the lowest level of commitment being self-employed. And I've been that person, you know. I only needed $2,000, so guess what? I worked just hard enough to do $2,000. When I needed $3,000, I worked just hard enough for $3,000. So goal setting and figuring out what you need is part of this, and being able to influence other people to see that. So the pioneer myth, getting there first, just because you got there first. And here's what I'll find, and I got asked this yesterday, on a call, or maybe it wasn't a call, maybe it was a text message. They said, well, did you get one of the first positions in the company you're in because you made so much money? I'm like, no, none of that shit matters. And I didn't follow up with, leadership has nothing to do with getting there first. Just because I was able to recruit a lot of people, a lot of companies promote themselves of, oh, well, you're able to get in first. That's awesome, but that's not going to make a lot of people follow you just because you're there first. 5, the position myth. The position. If I have a title or position, people will automatically follow me. Unfortunately, that's not true. Hey, John, how are you? A lot of people try their whole life to get this title, thinking the title will give them power. The title will give them... Now, in a management situation, in a job situation, that might be true. But what we're going to talk about here in a second is direct sales. So 7 factors of leadership. Character. That's one of the things that'll get people to follow you. Who you are, how you handle yourself. I'll be real honest. Sometimes it's a visual thing, and here's what I can tell you. I go to the gym, and I've gone to the gym almost every day, consistently. Hi, Susan. I've gone to the gym almost consistently for decades. My card is worn off, but it says 2002. But before that, I was at another complex called the Sportsplex on the west side of town. And I remember it was 1998 when I joined that. So 98, 99 when I came back to Indianapolis after I was sick. And I joined that I think I was there for 2 years. So almost 20 years straight. Before that, I was at a gym in Ohio where I was living prior to having cancer. So I've kind of been consistent at that. And being in the gym a lot, just by visual, you can tell who's committed. You can tell who influences people. Why? Their size. I've got a friend right now, Medina Rodolfo. The very first time the people that I was with saw this guy, they were like, "Holy crap! Look at the size of that guy's back. Look at the size of that guy's legs. Look at the size of that." I mean, he's 6'1". At the time that I first met him, I think he was 240. He got up to 260. And right now, I'm guessing he's probably in the 230 range. Gigantic, professional. You could tell his influence around people because it was just so obvious. Now, a lot of people thought that he didn't have the greatest personality. Eventually, I realized he wasn't from this country, and he didn't speak English well. So when people would walk by and say hi to him, A, he had his headphones on, but B, it was just he influenced people by his size, by his physical look. So one of the ways we can influence people is just by how you look, how you take care of yourself, or how the outward appearance, the energy you have before you say a word. Hey, Berdan, how's it going? Relationships. Some people will influence people based on the relationships they have. Do you know anybody that has that one friend whose family is wealthy, and they're not? But the family's wealthy, and a lot of people will befriend that person because they want, or they're trying to get something out of the family. Happens a lot. Unfortunate. The family lives in a nice neighborhood. The family has all this stuff, and that person has to be very, very careful because people will try to use them. The knowledge myth, what they know. Some people can influence people based on what they know. You can have a PhD in something and all of a sudden people are going to listen to you. There's a certain amount of people you can influence just with the degree itself, but then you open your mouth and you have to have some of these other qualities. Intuition, what they feel. Some people just make good decisions. I've got a couple friends that it seems like no matter what happens, they just frickin' make money. They just look at stuff and they're like, no. And I was like, well, you didn't even look. They're like, I just know. It's just a feeling. And then other times they jump in so fast. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, you know what? I just have this feeling based on other stuff I've done. I just know this is it. I know this is what we should do. 6, past success. You can influence people by what you've done in the past. I have a couple people that recently signed up with me in direct sales in the company that I just started in. And this is what they said. They're like, you literally have made money at everything you've ever done that I've seen. Now, I will tell you, I haven't made money at everything that I've done, but everything they've seen, I've made money in. So, therefore, they were able to sign up just because of some of the past success I had, which was very humbling. I mean, it was cool. And here's the thing. You don't have to make a ton of money. You just have to make the kind of money that they're wanting to make. 7, your ability, what you can do. Again, I go back to the bodybuilder. I mean, if you walk in and you see somebody that has the look that you want and they're able to lift the weights that you're trying to lift, whether that's powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever. I mean, when I saw my friend do 50 reps at 315 on box squat, I was just like, I need to follow this person. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. I've never seen anybody that naturally strong, that has that endurance. So that was the thing that actually influenced and attracted me to learning from him specifically in bodybuilding. But just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're necessarily going to influence somebody at something else. He might be great at bodybuilding and he might have the size and the strength. But if he says, hey, I'm going to start, a company, I might have to evaluate things very differently. Although he has the discipline, I can see the discipline in one thing that may carry over to something else. So leading others to the law of influence. A leader sees more, sees further, and sees before. Lead from a no leverage position. That is direct sales. I mean, that's like the definition of direct sales. Lead from a no leverage position. No leverage means you can't fire them. You're probably not going to influence them with personal money. You're not going to be able to influence them with, fear of, oh my gosh, you're not going to or you're going to. So how do you influence people from a no leverage position? It has to be 100% leadership. It has to be the qualities of a leader. And we went over this yesterday. And I'm just going to read through them real quick. The qualities of a leader. What kind of stuff do you have to have? John wrote another book called The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. And these are the things: character, charisma, commitment, communication, competence, courage, discernment, focus, generosity, initiative, listening, passion, positive attitude, problem solving, relationships, responsibility, security, self-discipline, servanthood, teachability, vision. And you're like, man, I got to learn all this. To become a good leader? Yeah, you do. There are some things. And here's the thing. If there's 21 laws of leadership and there's 21 qualities to a leader, that's why certain people can only influence certain people, because they only have certain qualities. They've only mastered certain things, so therefore they're only able to influence certain people. Here's what I can tell you about influence. Influence has somewhat to do with your energy. Anyone can influence anybody under certain circumstances. And here's what I mean by that. If there was a fire and we were at the very top of the building, you might not have any knowledge on anything else anybody wants to hear. But if you know a back way out, we're all going to follow you. Why? Because you happen to have the knowledge that we don't have. If you're absolutely certain that you know the way out and that it's safe because you just came up that way, you will be able to influence people that normally you would have never been able to influence. Why? Because you have the knowledge and the certainty and the proof. So here's something about energy. And this is something that I can see. I watch this happen in network marketing. I watch this happen in direct sales when people try to influence each other. Is certain people come in and their certainty of what they're going to do and how they're going to make it work is like an 8 or 9. And the person walking in the door, their certainty of how things work is a 4 or 5. So this person will always influence this person to get in with them simply because they can become certain and they can influence. By the way, there's 3 things you need to influence people on if you want to recruit them. Number 1, you have to influence them that the company is valuable and going to be around and solid. Number 2, you have to influence them that the product is something that's usable, something that they can use, something that they can do, something that's cost effective, something that's real. So that's another thing that you're going to have to be able to influence people on. Number 3, you're going to have to influence people to follow you. And that's why people have such a hard time. They're like, well, everybody's getting in this company. Everybody's buying this product, but I can't recruit people. So there's only one common denominator there. You. You have to work on you. So if you're having an issue, Jim Rohn said, if you're having an issue, bringing people on to your team personally, here's what you have to focus on. You have to focus on you. His exact quote is, you're really only going to be able to recruit not what you know, but who you are, which is kind of really difficult. It was difficult for me to hear that. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, wow. Well, that's not good. Work harder on yourself than you do anybody else. Or anything else is what he said. Work harder on yourself than anything else you do. And if you do that, what happens is you can raise some of these levels. Let's say out of those 21 characteristics, you're 5s in all of them. Well, think about it. If you could raise a couple of them to 8 or 9, you'd be able to influence a whole different group of people when you run into them. And everybody's, this is the way I kind of look at it, everybody has 3 or 4 things that are the most important to them. So that's what they're looking at in you to see if they're going to follow you out of those 21 characteristics. Now, the 21 laws, do you do the rest of this stuff well? The law of influence, can you influence people? If you want to know if you can influence people, call a bunch of people and tell them to be over at your house, Friday night at 8, 9 o'clock at night. You really want to influence people, call everybody at midnight and find out who shows up to help you. I mean, that's a real one, that you'll find out who you really can influence, who's willing to help you out. A lot of people have burned a lot of bridges. Now, how do you rebuild bridges? A lot of people say, well, how do I build influence? You build influence by doing the right things and becoming a person of character. You have to basically develop these qualities. And here's the thing. I didn't have most of them. I didn't have almost all of them. I was missing. So what I had to do is break each one of them down and say, what are the people who are influencing people? What are they doing differently that I'm doing? First of all, they weren't bitch, whining, and complaining about everything. They were positive people. They did what they said they were going to do. They showed up on time. I mean, this sounds like basic stuff, but a lot of times they're like, I'm not showing up. I don't have to show up for anybody. I'm on my time. Okay, but nobody else likes you because of that. Nobody else respects you because of that. I mean, that was a hard lesson for me to learn. Doing the right things at the right time rather than when I wanted to do them. You know, that was tough. You know, I have people right now, I'm sure, that are pissed off because I didn't do something. So these are just principles that you have to learn along the way. So, 3 questions that followers ask people. You know, this is good. Number 1, when people meet, they're like, do you care who I am? Do you care about me? That's one of the questions they're asking in their head. They don't, sometimes people don't consciously think this, but it's a subconscious thing. Do you care about me? Do you care that I'm going to make it? Let's talk about direct sales. Do you care that I'm going to make it? Some people can read that right off the bat and be like, this person's just here for the money. I mean, we can tell. Because everything they're talking about is just, get in so we can get paid. Get in so we can get paid. Get in so we can get a check. Get in. You know, you have to get in. You have to get in. I spent all this money. I hope you get in. Because if you don't get in, I won't make any money. You know, and it's money, 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 money. And I'll be real honest, I used to be that guy. So, I mean, I can relate to that. Unfortunately, you know how many people I recruited? 0. Nobody on my team. I was a team of 1. It was just me and my notebook for years. It took me a while to figure this out. Number 2, can you help me? People will actually figure this out. Can this person actually help me get to where I want to go? I mean, do they know what's going on? I mean, there's 3 kinds of people. People who know what's going on, people who think they know what's going on, and people who are like, what the hell's going on? I mean, people just don't know. And unfortunately, the largest group is the people who don't know what's going on or completely missed it. There's very few people who know what's going on. So you want to study this. You want to understand it. You want to read these books, and you want to actually study them. Not just read them to say, hey, I read a book. I used to do this. I read through books, and people knew that I didn't know. Hi, Becky. 2, can I trust you? Or 3, can I trust you? So number 1 was, do you care for me? Number 2 is, can you help me? And number 3 is, can I trust you? Can I trust you has to do with, are you doing what you say you're going to do? You said you were going to do a show every day. Are you doing it? You told me that you were going to call me at a certain time. Did you do it? I mean, that's the kind of small incremental stuff that people start judging this on. And people are like, I used to be like, that can't matter. What the hell? I mean, I called you the day after. Yeah, but they needed that information that day. I mean, that was tough. I mean, I still have problems with this. So this is stuff that you consistently work on. So guys, that's the lesson of today. Maxwell Leadership, the law of influence, the 5 myths, the 7 things living the law of influence that you need to know, and then the 21 characteristics or the 21 qualities of a leader, indispensable qualities of a leader. Those are the things that you need to go over. I mean, here's the thing. You probably won't end up getting bitten by an elephant. You probably won't get eaten by an elephant or bitten by an elephant or even bitten by a tiger. But you'll probably get bitten by a mosquito. You'll probably getting bitten by a fly or something like that. Why? It's the little stuff that usually gets us. It's the little things that we're doing that actually repel or attract people. So it's just the things you got to be consistent with. So I appreciate everybody for watching. I hope this helps out. This is law number 2 of the 21 Laws of Leadership. You can find us tomorrow on Facebook Live right here. We're going to go over this Monday through Friday at noon. The one day that I have a luncheon, I'm going to tape it and then put it out. I'll tag everybody in it who wants to be tagged. And tomorrow we're going to go over law number 3, the law of the process. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk to everybody real soon. Thanks.